Hello and welcome to the Bigger, Braver Life Show. I'm your host, Angela Marie Williams. As an entrepreneur and success coach, my mission is to empower you to realize your dreams and potential through transformational experiences. The purpose of this show is to inspire your positive change by learning from a community of those paving the way to a bigger, braver life. Hey everyone, welcome. I'm your host, Angela Marie Williams. I'm so excited to have you here today. I'm here with one of my great friends and colleagues, Kait McConomy. Welcome, Kait.
Hey, Angela. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to bring Kait on today because I wanted her to share her journey in her education, her career. She's got such a great story, and now she's super loving her life, and I love that so much. Kait, tell us who you are and about the work you do in this world.
All right. Are you ready to go for the ride?
Let's go.
So for those who are listening, to backtrack, Angela and I have known each other since 2014. We've known each other for a while. We actually met when I was in my first job post-grad school. And it was when your husband and I worked together for 2 weeks?
Yes.
Briefly.
So actually, I don't know if I shared too much on the show before, but I used to work in higher education. So while I've always been on my track to go for my social work degree, this is how we were able to meet and connect. I was able to meet lots of great friends and colleagues and really get my toes into the higher education world, which opened up, I think, a lot of opportunities and a lot of great transferable skills. Met my husband, right? All those great things. So love to share this with Kait, and we got to kind of hear the different professional struggles in this arena and really share these conversations of struggles that our other peers and colleagues were having and field-wide struggles as well.
And I'm excited that we're talking about this topic because I talk with folks every week on LinkedIn through Messenger that are looking to make a switch out of higher ed for so many different reasons. But when I got into the work that I was doing, I was in college, super involved, really connected with some mentors and decided I want to do this. So I went to grad school, spent 2 years getting a master's at Appalachian State University. If anyone's listening, go Nears.
And tell us what your degree's in. So I think folks listening may or may not know all the ins and outs of how you would get a career in higher education.
Yeah. So with higher ed and student affairs, which is like the outside of the classroom side of higher ed, most people, I'd say 90% of the people working in that sphere are required to have a master's degree for their roles. And typically that degree is in higher education, student affairs, or higher education administration. My specific degree was in college student development. And it was a program that had a emphasis and kind of backing and therapy light, definitely not getting that certification to be a therapist. But I like to say we had a lot of instruction and coursework around those environmental and personality and how to empower and work with college students, student development, that side of things. So lot
of the soft skills, right? A lot of the listening and communicating, because we have a lot of student development, student support roles, and really fostering those conversations all the time.
Yeah, I had a class that was a whole semester just on the college student and their environment and how to create inclusive, welcoming spaces in higher education. Yeah. And I'm still learning every day. Just because I have a master's in this, I still mess up and learn from things every single day. So I got my master's in college student development. And when I was in grad school, I worked in housing. So for those listening, imagine in college, if your RA had a boss, that was basically what I was doing. So when I started working in higher ed, I had all of these dreams of working my way up to the top and really shaping what the future of student affairs looked like. I had a few people I worked with in college when I was a student, and they were administrators that I just didn't feel like they treated me fairly, or, I had negative experiences with. So for me, I said, I'm going to go into this field and I'm going to kind of work my way up to the top and shake it up from the inside.
Yeah.
Which, looking back now, I'm glad for my career in higher ed and where it got me to my career now in tech. But I would encourage people that a proved you wrong mentality may end up getting you a really great career that shifts you somewhere else where you're truly supposed to be.
True.
So after UCF, I came home to Charlotte, North Carolina. And while I was working at UNCC, I just kind of started feeling like higher ed may not be where I want to continue. Yeah. And it wasn't any specific person. It wasn't any specific thing. I liked the people I worked with. I'm still friends with many of the people I worked with. It ultimately came down to me deciding to get my doctorate. So in higher ed and student affairs, there are certain positions that you need a doctorate for. And if you don't have that doctorate, you're not getting that role. They're not even going to interview you. So I was hitting that point in my career where most people get their doctorates because they say, I need to do it now and get it over with because I want to start a family or do something else. So career-wise, it makes sense for me to get my doctorate now. So I started the doctorate, got halfway through it, wrote the first chapter of my dissertation.
That's a far way along.
Yeah. I mean, 2.5 years. 2.5 years. I got through most of my coursework. If I had stuck out one more summer, I would have been ADD.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was in the spring of 2020 in my courses. And I was really feeling disconnected from the work. I was not enjoying what I was doing, but I was comfortable enough that I wasn't willing to take the step to try something else. I just kept telling myself like, oh, it's just a lot. I'm handling a lot right now. That's why I'm not happy. It's just school. It's just work. So I kept going along. And then it's so funny that this happened, but I believe in like the power of the universe sending us big signs when we need to make a change. I broke my foot.
Right.
Yeah. So I like fully fractured my 5th metatarsal in my foot, had to have surgery, had to like learn how to walk on that foot again. And during the 3 weeks where I was like fully immobile, I was forced to sit with myself and be alone in my thoughts, which can be a scary place to be because it's not often that people like me who are people pleasers and perfectionists have a chance to just stop and breathe and be alone with themselves. And it was in that moment that I realized that I just wasn't happy and I needed a change. And so I was talking to my husband and I said to him, I really think I need to stop the doctoral program. He asked me why. And I said, I realized the only reason I'm still doing it is because I feel like if I stop, I'm going to let down my family and friends. And he kind of laughed and he was like, if you're not doing this for yourself, don't do it. It's not worth it. And so I took the summer off to focus on healing because I was supposed to take a class later that summer and ultimately ended up taking the fall semester off as well with the option to come back if I wanted, if I changed my mind. Because at that point, I was still kind of feeling things out and deciding where I wanted to go. It was at the beginning of the fall, so August 2020. I had been looking at ed tech. I was really interested in a job where I could work from home. I was interested in still being connected to education somehow. I started looking at listings and thinking about where I could find my fit in tech. A lot of people who go from education to ed tech go either customer success or will get some sort of certificate and do project management, that type of stuff. But I just had a feeling that with my theater background and with the type of personality I have, that sales could be really fun for me, especially tech sales, working with like these different computer platforms that I had used in my time in student affairs. So, I applied for a few different jobs and this job came along and I actually had a friend who referred me to the company. She was like, hey, I think you'd be great at this. And I think that they'd like you and you'd like them. So I went through the process, got hired, and in about a month, I went from being someone who was working in higher ed, had half of a doctorate, still deciding whether I wanted to go back or not, to fully stopping all of that and moving into the tech world, which was something I knew nothing about.
Right. So talk about a huge leap. And I want to really unpack your story. Thank you for sharing all that, because I think there's a lot of lessons learned and pieces here that folks can benefit from. And first of all, congrats, I think, is in order, right? The piece about you being able to have the awareness and insight and sit with yourself and really ask yourself the tough question of, why am I doing this doctoral program? Why am I actually doing this? And if I'm feeling miserable, what's keeping me here? Because we often get into this routine, this rhythm, this pattern. We continue a pattern of this hardworking and people pleasing. And we think, oh, it's just attributable to a stressful time at school or a stressful time at home or a stressful time at work, whatever that may look like. But the reality is we're living a life that is not one that we actually want to be living. That's what it's really about. And it's about being able to acknowledge that and then take the action. Yep. And we were talking prior to our show, and you and I had more of that coaching structured conversation prior. So how many years before you made the decision to switch were you kind of thinking about maybe getting out of higher education?
Yeah, so that would have been summer 2020 when you and I sat in a pool and I said to you, like, Angela, I don't know what I'm doing. I think I have other things that make me happy. And you gave me some incognito life coaching that I needed. Honestly, when you and I sat there and had that conversation, it was the first whack on the head that I needed, because at that point I was thinking about where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do and what it would look like to move into something other than higher ed. But at that time, I had no clue what it was. I was still so comfortable in my discomfort because it was what I knew, that I wasn't willing to really do the research and look outward at what the other options were. I was just kind of I know this isn't where I want to be anymore because it's not really giving me much.
It's really about reaching that first level of awareness. And when I work with folks, it's on a 3-pronged approach, if you will. We start with the present. What is working or not working right now? And you were there, right? You were saying, this does not work for me. And I know that. That's awareness number 1 in the present. And then when I work with my clients further, right, we were able to get you clarity on the future a little bit more. It's okay, well, I have to take an action because this isn't working for me anymore. And so there was clarity in that step. And then we have to also look backward a little bit to understand those patterns, those thought processes, those things that are keeping us back. Like you said, the perfectionism, the procrastination, the people pleasing, all of that I can't slow down and sit with myself to even have a minute to think through. That's so accurate, right? Of our high achieving, hyperachieving, overachieving selves. We're successful women. We love to give back and make an impact and do great work. And we have goals, but we also need to take that time to really sit down and really dig into that. So that's amazing that you had, and we had that conversation so quick, y'all. That was 10 minutes. And it was okay, breakthrough.
I was awesome. Angela, I need help. I need life help. And you were like, okay, I can help you.
We got this, right? So for folks who want to work with me, pool optional, we can work on that.
That's what Alex did. He has no problem mentioning it. For anyone who's listening, my husband and Angela actually used to work together and are good friends. And my husband at one point in his career came to Angela and was like, hey, I need some life coaching. And Angela was like, I got you. He and I have both benefited from your coaching. So
love it. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for the shout outs, and I'm so thankful. Honestly, I have the best clients ever. I will say that all the time because people are ready and willing, having that, I want to improve my life. I want to make it better. I want to go after this happiness. And I'm so thankful for the clients that are just let's jump in and let's do this and let's figure this out, right? That's so great. I'm so honored to have these amazing clients. Yeah. So back to your journey and your path. I think a lot of women, myself included, I remember when I wanted to leave my role in higher education, I thought about it for a long time prior than taking that action. So if you're listening and you're trying to make a decision on whether to move careers or start the business or the podcast or whatever that thing is that you want to do to really make the impact, it's almost like how much time are you willing to let yourself waste or sit in that before you do the work necessary to move on to that next step.
I was talking to someone recently who was just asking me for advice about moving from education into ed tech because they were interested in making that jump.
Right.
And they said that they were feeling a little discouraged because they'd applied for a few jobs and hadn't heard back. So we had a good conversation about resumes and other stuff. But at the same time, I said to that person, think about it this way. You're spending so much time in a role where you're unhappy. Just take the 30 minutes and apply for one job a night.
Right.
Shake up your resume each time and just keep going till something hits the wall and sticks, because sometimes that's what it takes. I mean, I applied to a few different jobs before I applied to the one that I ended up with, and I didn't hear back from any of them. And honestly, I think that shaking up my resume, writing a cover letter that was like super catered about making the switch over into a new career and getting a referral at the company I'm at now is really what helped me. And that's what I tell people. If you can get that referral, that is really helpful. And even that in and of itself is hard to do, especially for women, because I won't speak for other women. I'll just speak for myself. I never want to seem like too much. I never want to seem like I'm just asking for something. And so asking for referrals is really hard for me. And I know for a lot of other people too, but at the end of the day, especially for the people that are lovingly refer themselves as expatriates of student affairs, like we love to help people come over if student affairs isn't serving you anymore, because there is a big funnel in student affairs, right? There are less positions as you move up. There's a pretty big percentage of folks who leave student affairs and go to other careers, a big one of them being tech. And so while there is a world where there are lots of people who are in student affairs and love it and are going to make it their career, my husband is one of them. Yeah. There are also the people that are going to look for something else and career shift. And I was 31. I was 31 years old and shifted to a new career, and it was terrifying. Yes. And I was in a role where I had to kind of start over a little bit because I didn't know this world. I'd never worked in sales. I'd never worked in tech, but I knew the market, I knew higher ed, and I knew the software that I was selling, and I believed in it, because I wouldn't work for a company where I didn't believe in what I was selling. Like, there's no point in doing that, in my opinion. So,
right. so many great points that you brought up. One, first being that, you aren't the only one that feels like they're too much when they're asking for a referral or something. I mean, even business owners, right? If you think about when we ask for testimonials or we ask for referrals, like, it's scary. We have this fear of rejection. We have this fear of judgment. Like, we are being too much. That's not how we were conditioned by society, even us more outspoken folks too. And I would say we're both pretty outspoken for the most part. It can be even scary for folks like us that, other people may look and say, oh, well, that person looks confident and doesn't, but it is. And it's about addressing those fears and moving forward anyway, because you're the one responsible for shaping your life and your career in the way that you want. But I totally hear you on that. And I think that's definitely more a common thing, I think, especially for women. Yeah. And we need to ask for those things and definitely show up for ourselves in that way.
Absolutely. And I know for myself, like, no one was going to pull me out of my discomfort.
Right.
There were people like you, like my friend who referred me to this role, that were throwing me the ropes and everything I needed to climb out of that hole. Yeah. But it took me needing to find the strength to climb out of that discomfort on my own.
Right.
And I had the tools, but I had to get to the place where I was ready to do it. So ever since I did, it has been amazing, because I find it easier to draw boundaries. I find it easier to speak about myself and what I do. I've only been working at the company I'm with for, I got to count, 8 months, and I've already had a promotion. Yeah. And that's another thing too. When my now supervisor was talking to me about the opportunity of moving on to her team, I was like totally shocked. Yeah. And falling into what you talked about in your last podcast that you broadcasted about the insecure expert.
Right.
You know, because I was like, how could they want me to do this? And now that I'm in the new role, it's amazing. I love my team. I love my supervisor. I love the work I'm doing. And I have finally gotten to a place where I've been able to get out of my own way and just have fun with it. Yes. Because even in the first couple weeks, early days of this role, I was totally trying to just be perfect, and it was getting in the way. Right. And the second I allowed myself to just breathe and be myself and trust what I know and have fun, everything made perfect sense. And it was like magic.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, so well said. And I think, you know, we all have our own journey and ability to quickly do that or not, right? Some of us need more work in that area versus others, but that's amazing that you were able to recognize, okay, here's this faulty software that my brain's playing for me that I have to be perfect and that I have to fit this certain thing, but I'm going to go ahead and say, fuck that. And, you know, really embrace who I truly am.
I mean, I said to someone that I work with who's kind of like in a little bit of like a mentor role, I finally just said, fuck the script and had fun. And it was amazing.
I love that. That may have to be our title for today.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like it's something, you know, I'm pretty friendly with a lot of the people on the sales team with the company I work with. And I've said to several of them, I'm like, honestly, just fuck the script.
Right. Right.
And I think that applies to life, right? Yes. Like we all have this idea of where we're going to be. I didn't imagine I'd be starting over my career at 31 years old in a role where I was with a lot of people who were coming out of college. Yep. And I honestly found such a fun niche. I found people that I loved. I found work that I loved. I got promoted quickly. Yeah. So it was like, I just had to say, fuck the script on what I thought my life was going to be at 31. Like I'm married to an amazing partner. I own my own house. If I got to start my career over, fuck the script of what I thought my career should be. Let's just have fun and
Let's do it. Yes. I love that so much. And there's great points of what you said, being a woman in early or mid 30s and having a bigger transition. I have a few friends right now, and a lot of my business cohort, folks who are owning their own business, are finding that when they have to pivot or things like that, it's really similar because we're trying something new. And usually when our brain senses something new, it's kind of like this archaic way that it was programmed of like, oh, something new, this could be a threat or this could be danger. So it shuts down and we kind of go, oh, you know, hit the brakes. How do we protect ourselves? What do we do here? So transitions of any sort can be a learning curve too. You didn't just go in knowing, you had to learn and tap into a whole new set of skills and ways to approach. So again, kudos to you for doing that, because some of the things that hold us back is really the fear, and then we just don't take the action at all. So that's amazing that you're able to do that and navigate that transition.
Yeah, thanks. I think, you know, fear and discomfort, it's so easy to just get stuck in it because you are scared to make a change, because you're afraid to make yourself uncomfortable with transition. But like, you're already uncomfortable. So you might as well take the discomfort of trying something new and just seeing what lands. And it's like terrifying, easier said than done. But pick your discomfort.
Yeah. Choose your hard, right? Yeah. It's like you get to pick what you're doing. And a lot of times we find that through the discomfort of something new, we learn a ton. We have like a quantum leap in learning, or we find that we're really aligned with what it is that we actually want out of this life and what we want to be doing with our time. I mean, we spend at least 8 hours a day at work, and that's a majority of our waking hours. And so it's like, why wouldn't we want to do something that was amazing? And I want to talk a little bit more about the shift from the culture of higher education to more of that corporate world that you're in now. When I started my role in higher ed, it was a student care role. And first actually it was housing, and then moved into that student care role, right? But, you know, there's a lot that goes into these type of jobs when we're responsible for caring for, supporting, growing, creating, we're doing so many things in one, in these different roles, which is awesome, and so many transferable learning skills. But I think there's, certain parts of the culture, certain beliefs that are held in this field that are difficult. So I want to ask your opinion on that. But for me, when I joined the higher education field, beside the amazing opportunities, was that in my personal values, knowledge, education, empowerment, those are really strong values for me. So this felt like a really great mesh of my social work world with the education world. And so that's where I was really excited. And I, again, got so many opportunities to teach class and present and really strengthen my speaking skills, et cetera. There's so many great things. However, I really fell into burnout in the role. And part of that is me, right? My cycle and my systems growing up and my mindset. And then there's also, the culture and again, the beliefs and the expectations. So I'm going to get your take on that as well.
Well, first of all, challenge you a little bit because I know some of it probably is you, but a lot of it is the culture and the necessary upcoming reform of higher education for people working in student affairs, because I do think it's coming. I think as the people who are sticking it out in student affairs and are continuing their careers are moving into higher level roles, they are shifting and reforming the values and mentality of offices and departments in student affairs. So, for me, the biggest piece of that change, and just to talk about student affairs a little bit, I had amazing opportunities and I met amazing people, but that can never replace the hours I spent sometimes in my office crying because I was so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
It'll never replace the political hierarchy that never made sense.
Yeah.
It will never replace the way in student affairs you're sometimes just totally broken down and burnt out.
Yeah.
And it is a universal experience from many people that I've talked to,
Yep.
And I think it's a combination of the low pay in higher education, hours, and just the politics. I think those are the biggest things. And a lot of people in all kinds of different institutions across student affairs experience it.
Sure.
And I did too. It doesn't matter how much I loved the people I worked with, I still experienced those things.
Right.
And when I came over to the company I'm working for now, on one of my first days of work, we had a lunch and learn with the CEO of our company. It was like my second day on the job. And I was like, oh crap, what do I ask this CEO?
Right.
Like, I don't know this guy. I'm new. I'm like low on the totem pole. And he said to us, one of the first things was, you know what? You and your family matter more to us than anything. So if you need to take an hour a day on your calendar and mark it off for exercise, do it. I do it. You should do it too. And he meant every single word. I mean, I emailed him after, and the next week I had a call on my cell phone from my CEO just to get to know each other for like 25 minutes.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Which would never happen in higher ed. If you think student affairs and you think like a VP over your unit, way high up, reports to the president, they're not calling you on your cell phone to get to know you when you're brand new to the institution, unless it's a really small school and that's a traditional policy type of thing.
Yeah.
And so I come onto my computer at like 8:30 and I'm off at 5. I have a supervisor who encourages time off. I work for a company where we have the ability to be gone when we need to be gone. We have great leave for things like parental leave. I was working for a state institution where the state policy was you either get 6 or 8 weeks. That's it. If you have more time, you can take it, but that's it. And with my new company, you get 12 weeks no matter who you are.
Awesome. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where like, I feel so supported from the top down in the company I work in now. I used to live in like a fear mindset in my last job where I was like, I could get fired for anything.
Right.
Things could go down. Our office could lose funding. Like, just because I'd seen it happen. And now I'm in an environment where I'm like, I have a amazing supervisor who will fight for me. A CEO who makes it their effort to know everyone in a 400 person plus company. We've got policies in place and amazing HR folks that actually do what they say they're going to do. And so it's refreshing because I feel I feel like I'm a human outside of my work again. And I haven't felt that way in a long time. For a long time felt like the human I was my work. I now find myself doing so many things I never did before, going on so many more trips, spending more time with family and friends because I can. And that is time that you can never get back.
So well put. And the other thing that really got me was the value. I think what you're talking about really is that value of freedom to choose what to do with your time and to be able to feel okay, prioritizing yourself and your family and all the things that come with it, your mental health, your days off, your all of the things. And that was something that that I saw in certain higher education environments where it was really, it's a nonstop situation. And so, you can get swept up in that burnout pretty quick. And so many lessons learned for me too of the value of being able to set my own schedule and to, not attend 55 committee meetings and not get my actual work done and all of these different things. And I want to say this with balance of, again, great experiences, but also it's like, I didn't have control of that time or that freedom to choose what to do at that time. That was a really hard struggle point for me. And me trying to be the best at everything that I do and hyperachieving and all of that, like that's a one-way ticket to burnout, 100%.
Yeah.
And I paid the consequences for that physically, mentally, emotionally. And also I was trying to get my business off the ground too. So that was a lot. It was just a lot. But think about now our skills and being able to set boundaries and enjoy life so much more with so much more freedom. And I love that. So thanks for sharing that. And I just want to reflect to you too. And y'all should follow Kait on LinkedIn if she wants to share that with us in the show notes, because she posts amazing, exciting opportunities and motivational points like all the time. And I don't really remember you doing that before. And maybe you did.
I didn't.
I just feel like I was going to say it shows when you are living a life that's aligned with your work and your purpose. And I just love that for you.
Oh, thanks. I honestly believe that anyone out there who, especially for my folks working in higher ed and student affairs, if you're not happy and you want to make a jump, now is the time to really push yourself and embrace the discomfort of a transition, because no one else is going to do it for you. Okay. No one is going to pull you out of the discomfort you're in right now. So take the discomfort of trying something new.
Right. Yeah, I love that. It sounds like your work is really supporting your ability to bring that self-care and having that freedom. I think that's what employees are really looking for nowadays.
Yeah.
We right? We want that. We've had the other experiences, but tell us how you do that.
You remember you were working at UCF at the same time I was when the Pulse nightclub shooting happened. And we all were working with students and supporting students through that who lost friends and loved ones. And there was not a lot of self-care for the people providing care. There was not a lot of room for us to take care of ourselves in that situation. Similarly, at the last institution I worked at, there was a shooting on campus, and there was a lot of support that we provided. And they provided support for the people who were caring for the students, but there wasn't really the time or an avenue to really take advantage of that. And so coming from a world where you are in some ways a caretaker without having a lot of time to take care of yourself, to a world where I work for a company where they're like, you need to take this many days off. We need to make sure you're at least taking your time, is amazing. For me, in the first couple months of my new role was like kind of nervous about like taking a long weekend here and there, because that was the mentality I was in. Right. And the second I realized like, oh, I can take a week off work and they're going to be okay. And they're going to cover me and they've got me because they're taking their week off of work next month. It was life-changing. And I got to a place where I was like, you know what? If I'm working for a place that is encouraging this, I'm going to take it. And I had to, again, get out of my own way and do those things and shift my mindset, because I now, 8 months after taking this job transition, am in a place where I'm not afraid to take that time for myself. I'm not afraid to take some time away. I'm not afraid to clock out early if I need to. And really, the biggest things that I do for myself are spend time with my friends and family. That's what gives me energy. Like, I know you've talked about this on the podcast before. I am also a big ambivert. I get a lot of energy from being around people. However, like, I need my alone time.
Right.
And so for me, like, I'm like out and about being social to the degree I can and what's safe and comfortable in like the world we're living in now. And I create spaces and time for that. Whereas in my career in student affairs, it was kind of like plug and play where I could. Right. Now my work is more of the plug and play. Like, I'm going to be there. And when I'm working, I'm giving 110%, but I'm also taking that time for myself because I can't be good at work if I'm not good inside.
Preach. Yes, exactly. And that's what I talk about with my clients. That's the goal. That's why I do this work. It's so that people can become the version of themselves they want, to live the version of life that they want and work in the places they want to work, to have all of this support, this holistically better and happy lifestyle. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks for having me. I love talking about this stuff.
Yes.
It's so exciting for me. And I think I've found like this new passion around encouraging people and really just cheerleading them to take those big, uncomfortable transitions in life, because you're going to get through the discomfort and be so much happier once you find where you're supposed to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kait, tell folks how they can contact you if they want to connect.
You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search Kait McConomy. My name will be typed out on here so you know how to type it. If you're just listening, you can just search my last name and find me. Honestly, it's like economy, but McConomy. I'm also on Instagram at Kait McCo, KAITMCCO. Feel free to find me on either and reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And for everyone listening, we will see you in the next episode.